I've always dreamed of looking death in the face. But in my final moments, all I hear is my mother's words ringing in my ears. Maybe I have made everything worse.
Wednesday's back at Nevermore, but this time not just as a regular student but as an awkward celebrity. While everyone's watching her, she starts having disturbing visions that push her into a desperate race to save someone really close. With a new principal running the school, shaky friendships, and her psychic powers acting up, Wednesday's about to get caught in a web of secrets darker and more dangerous than ever before. It all kicks off with Wednesday tied up in a serial killer's basement surrounded by creepy dolls. But rewind 6 weeks, she'd been training her psychic skills using Woody's book. Her research led her to the Ripper's 11th victim, who dropped a bowling ball during the abduction. Thanks to that object, she got visions of the crime and started tracking the killer. Only problem? Getting on a plane. She had to deal with airport security. They took her weapons and even her sunscreen for going over the liquid limit. She claimed thing, hidden in her bag, was just a prosthetic hand for a mortician's convention. Once in Kansas, she found the suspect at a dog grooming salon and confronted him. She tried to zap him with a stun gun, but he overpowered her and dragged her into a basement set up like a twisted tea party. The killer showed her a doll that looked just like her, said it was how he remembered his victims. Calm as ever, she managed to get the gag off and told him he should check out one of his own crafts. She pointed at a doll, and Thing popped out attacking him like a maniac. While the guy struggled, Wednesday started untying herself. Eventually, Thing managed to take him down, and Wednesday, holding back her dark tears, grabbed a knife and walked up to her attacker, telling him it was time to play with dolls. Back home, Wednesday circled a newspaper article reporting that the Skinner had been skinned. As she packed her bags, her mom came in to rush her off to Nevermore. When she saw Wednesday writing a novel, she asked when she could read it. Even though Wednesday thought she'd never allow it, she told her it'd be soon. She also reminded Thing about loyalty. On the road to Nevermore, the family chatted about Morticia and Pugsley's powers. Gomez joked that the family was actually a very useful resource. Wednesday asked her brother to zap a highway sign with lightning, warning she'd eject him from the car if he missed. Gomez said the eject button could now be triggered by anyone, thanks to Thing. Pugsley hit the mark, blowing up the sign in the background. Not that the family even noticed. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a family was having a picnic when some photographers started snapping pics without permission. Moments later, bodies dropped onto his truck and violently surrounded him. Trapped, the photographer called someone to warn them the bodies had found him and that the evidence was safe at the base. When he turned around, the vehicle was full of crows, and they went in for the kill. The Adams family finally arrived at Nevermore. Morticia looked surprised that Wednesday had come back on her own. Wednesday said it felt like returning to the scene of a crime. She warned she wasn't gonna let chaos run wild again and that she'd take control of the place on her own terms. Her mother reminded her that control is just an illusion, like the one she pretends to have over Gomez. It was Pugsley's first year at Nevermore, and he was nervous about making friends. Morticia asked Wednesday to look out for him. She agreed, remembering how she once locked him in a coffin when they were kids. She gave him a few tips: avoid eye contact, ask for help in writing, and remember, Thing reports everything. When they got there, the students cheered her return. A group asked for autographs and she replied she only signed in blood. Bianca stepped in and told the girls to back off, so they did immediately. Wednesday looked uncomfortable, but Bianca warned her that after saving the school from the Pilgrim Demon, fame was kinda unavoidable. The new principal, Barry Dodd, came up to Wednesday, thanked her for saving the school and suggested bringing back the Founders' Bonfire, a long-lost tradition of the outcasts. He asked her to think about it, saying he really wanted to be her ally. He said he wanted Wednesday to become the student of honor, told her he needed her for the symbolic battle to bring glory back to Nevermore. He criticized the former principal's leadership but made sure not to speak ill of the dead. Wednesday, sarcastic as ever, said she preferred to demonize the living and walked away. When she got to her room, she found a party thrown by Enid, who quickly told everyone to leave. One kid mentioned he'd installed something and warned not to put any weight on it. Wednesday then asked Enid for help, a gesture that actually touched her. Once alone, Enid asked how her break had been, then said hers was amazing. Wednesday, staying on brand, hinted she wanted to kill her just for saying that. Enid didn't share much else, but gave her a t-shirt with a monster joke on it. Wednesday, unimpressed, gave her a gift too, a doll she'd taken from the Skinner's house made of real human hair. Enid looked disturbed, but decided to let it slide. Enid shared her goals for the year, join the pack, run the dance, and get into the nightshades. She asked Wednesday about hers. Wednesday said she just wanted to avoid people and finish her new novel, Death Serpent. When Enid asked about the last one, Wednesday showed her a manuscript full of edits and red marks. She made it clear she wouldn't change a thing. It had taken her 2 years to finish it. They were interrupted by Ajax, who was looking for Enid. Wednesday lied, said she wasn't there, and got handed a stuffed unicorn with visible disgust. Enid thanked him but admitted she was feeling confused about her feelings for Ajax. Wednesday told her to just talk to him. Right then, a hidden crossbow went off inside the closet, shooting an arrow into a photo of Wednesday that read, "Welcome back, Wednesday. I'm still watching you." When she touched it, she had a vision. She was talking with the principal, but couldn't make out who her stalker was. Enid noticed a black tear running down her cheek week, but Wednesday brushed it off like it was nothing. Meanwhile, the Adams family was helping Pericles get set up in his dorm. Gomez commented on how much the school had changed. Eugene came by to greet Pericles, complimented his gadgets, and showed off how he could control bugs. Pericles joked about eating them, but Eugene passed. He said he was heading out with some friends and only roomed there because Wednesday had helped him out. Then Ajax showed up, asked how the setup was going, and totally dodged the question about Init. Then he dipped. Later, Wednesday met with her parents and Principal Dot, who suggested Morticia lead the fundraising committee. He also offered them the old gardener's cabin to stay in. Morticia said she was feeling a little lost now that both kids were at Nevermore. When she got a moment alone with Wednesday, she offered to be her temporary spiritual guide since her connection with the ancestors had gone quiet. Wednesday turned her down, saying they were nothing alike. She was all crows and Morticia was more doves. Morticia gently brought up her sister Ophelia, someone she rarely talked about. She looked at her daughter with this soft sadness in her eyes and admitted Wednesday reminded her more and more of Ophelia. Clearly uncomfortable, Wednesday shifted the convo toward Pericles, saying she was pretty sure he was headed for a painfully mediocre life. Once Morticia was alone with Gomez, she shared her fear that Wednesday was hiding something serious, and she made it clear she wouldn't let the past repeat itself. Out in the nearby woods, the authorities had just found the body of Carl Bradbury, a private investigator. A couple of grocery store employees from town had stumbled upon the scene. As the cops tossed sarcastic comments back and forth about the case, a sudden flock of crows swooped in and attacked viciously. Even for Jericho, it was weird. Wednesday showed up at the crime scene only to get blocked by the new sheriff, Santiago. She tried to flex her authority, but Wednesday just hit her with a cold stare and brushed her off like it was nothing. Right before leaving though, Wednesday caught sight of someone running through the trees. She gave chase, tackled the figure, and when she saw the face, she froze. It was Tyler Galpin. Galpin, dazed, told her he knew the victim. Bradbury had been digging into something that messed with outcasts directly, said he had a kid who was one of them. Then he blamed Donna Hill for turning Tyler into a monster. But Wednesday didn't flinch. Tyler had always been one, she said. In her eyes, people don't change. Galpin was just another broken man hiding behind a badge. Even as he begged for help, she walked away. Before vanishing into the woods, he called out behind her with a creepy warning. The bodies were watching, and Wednesday hadn't stumbled onto this case by chance. She'd been pulled in. That night at Nevermore, the students gathered for a round of scary stories. Ajax took the floor with a tale about a genius who built himself a mechanical heart to keep up with his mind, but his ambition wrecked him. Now his nameless grave lies under Skull Tree, and if you listen close, you can still hear the heart beating. Meanwhile, Principal Barry Dodd pulled Bianca aside to ask her to be the face of the fundraising gala. At first, she said no, too much on her plate, but he pushed back, reminding her she was on scholarship, and if the gala flopped, kids like her would be the first to feel it. Bianca figured her being a siren had something to do with the whole thing, and Dot didn't even try to deny it, said her charm was a tool for a noble cause, told her to think about it and give him an answer by tomorrow. Out on the balcony, Init found Deus hanging by himself. He said he'd had a fight with Wednesday, and Init, half joking, told him it's normal. Family turns into punching bags sooner or later. To cheer him up, she gave him his own little spot, a cozy shack she called a noyaka, made just for him. When he stepped inside, he was greeted by welcoming howls. He was officially part of the pack. Everyone got back to doing their own thing. Wednesday played her cello in an empty room, letting the music take over. Morticia, restless, was staring at Pericles' creepy drawings. Meanwhile, he was mapping out the school, trying to locate Skull Tree. Thing was busy too, building himself a personal corner, branching out from just being Wednesday's sidekick. Then in the music room, a woman walked in. Her name was Isabel. From a distance, Wednesday clocked her immediately. She'd been a child prodigy, famous back in the day for writing a bunch of acclaimed pieces. The revival of the outcast traditions got the students hyped. For them, it was more than a celebration. It felt like reclaiming a piece of their identity. Even Bianca, who'd been kinda hesitant at first, showed up on her own after some pressure from the principal. That gave the event a little extra legitimacy. Morticia was invited too, and she agreed to come watch the big bonfire get lit. That same night, Wednesday got a creepy painting of a crow with a red scar. She took it as a threat. Then she realized her novel, the one she'd spent 2 years writing, was gone. It was the only copy. Right where she'd left it, she found a note. The thief planned to burn it during the bonfire ceremony. Fuming, Wednesday swore she wouldn't let that happen. When the day of the event came, tension was thick in the air. The fire blazed in the center of the courtyard, people gathering all around. Wednesday scanned every face, hunting for the culprit. A little girl stared at her way too hard, made her stand out like a sore thumb. Meanwhile, Pericles, totally unaware, was trying to convince other kids to join him on an adventure to explore the mysterious Skull Tree. Of course, nobody wanted to go with him. Back at the ceremony, a group of students bumped into Wednesday and slipped her another threatening note. "If you don't want your novel to go up in flames, meet me under the bonfire." As the ceremony kicked off, the Nevermore anthem was sung, and the principal gave some grand speech about the dawn of a new era. But just then, Wednesday got trapped inside the bonfire structure right as the flames were lit. Thing watched in horror. She managed to escape unharmed, still clutching her novel. Then one of the organizers asked her to unveil a painting meant to honor the school's heroes. Instead, Wednesday dropped a fiery speech, said she didn't represent anyone, and called out all the fake hero worship. Meanwhile, Pericles made it to the skull tree, only for a zombie to rise from beneath it. Back at the school, Wednesday had another vision, a dead friend blaming her for her death. It hit her hard, left her drowning in guilt.
I'd recognize this judgmental, beady blue-eye stare anywhere.
You sensed the monster in me. You fell in love with it. That two black-hearted soul.
The story picks up in Chapter 2, titled Better the Gloomy Demon You Know. We see Wednesday deep in one of her psychic visions. She's standing in a cemetery surrounded by crows when she witnesses a gut-wrenching scene. Her best friend Enid lies dead, screaming in despair that it's all Wednesday's fault. Wednesday jolts awake, black tears streaming down her face. These tears, now showing up after every vision, remain a mystery to her. She still has no clue where they're coming from. As she wakes up, she says Enid's name out loud. Her mother, Morticia, reassures her that Enid is fine, but that it's her, Wednesday, who's worrying her. Speaking about her gift, Morticia reminds her that she needs to be honest with herself and reveals that she knows what the tears mean. It's psychic burnout, the result of pushing her ability way past its limits. Wednesday, clearly unsettled, asks how she can get rid of them. Morticia tells her the first step is handing over Goody's spellbook, but Wednesday resists. She insists that Goody was her spiritual guide and that the book belongs to her. Morticia, calm but firm, explains that this isn't something she gets to control. She needs to be patient and wait for her new spiritual guide to appear when the time is right. Still, Wednesday's impatient, saying she doesn't have any time to waste. Intrigued by Sheriff Galpin's warning, Xavier's painting, and the vision of Enid's death, all linked by the appearance of a strange one-eyed bird, Wednesday decides to take action. She tells Lurch to make a stop and heads over to Galpin's house. When she gets there, the place is boarded up with graffiti covering the walls. As she steps inside, she finds Galpin's lifeless body slumped in a chair, his eyes pecked out. A swarm of crows bursts out of his mouth, crashing into the windows. Only one with a single glowing red eye lingers a moment longer before flying off. Wednesday studies Galpin's body closely, convinced it's the only clue that could help her save Enid. She tries to trigger her psychic ability by touching him, but nothing happens. No vision, no flash. Before she gets a chance to try again, the cops burst in. Sheriff Santiago arrests her on the spot and brings her down to the station. There, Santiago asks what she was doing at Galpin's house. Wednesday tells her Galpin himself asked her to come. She then flips the question back. What was she doing there? Santiago explains that the last person to get their eyes ripped out, Carl Bradbury, called Galpin right before he died. She tried reaching out to ask what they talked about, but he never picked up. Also, his phone is gone. No trace of it was found in the house. She asks Wednesday if she knows what happened to the device, but Wednesday denies it, adding that Tyler, who hates his father, could be behind the whole thing. However, the sheriff points out that Tyler is currently locked up at Willow Hill. Right then, Gomez walks in. He introduces himself as Wednesday's father and her lawyer. In a calm but firm tone, he tells the sheriff that if she wants to speak to his daughter again, she'll need a court order. With that, father and daughter leave the station together. On the way out, Gomez asks Wednesday what she was doing at Galpin's house. She tells him she saw Galpin the day before. He was working on a case and asked for her help. She also mentions that it's time to pack up and take her mother back home. Meanwhile, Eugene tells Pugsley he didn't see him last night at bedtime and asks what he was doing in the shed. Pugsley, acting a bit mysterious, asks if Eugene can keep a secret. Eugene nods and heads into the cabin, where he finds a chained-up living corpse. Surprised, he asks what that creature is, but Pugsley just shrugs and says it's the coolest thing that's ever happened to him. He's got himself a pet and a best friend now. He also reveals that the story Ajax told last night was actually true, and that he was the one who managed to activate the heart of that corpse. Meanwhile, Wednesday's still all out of sorts about her psychic powers and the recent visions involving Enid. She's convinced it's all somehow connected to those weird birds. When she walks into her room, she spots bloodstains, and right after that sees Enid lying on the floor in the middle of a puddle. But then Enid starts laughing. Turns out it's all a prank. It's joke day, a long-standing tradition at the academy. Enid explains she was just getting back at her for the fake eyeball she found on her pillow. Wednesday, confused, says she's got no idea what eyeball she's talking about. When she sees it, she figures some bird must have left it there. She knows that look. She knows exactly whose eye that is. A little while later, Enid gets threatening texts from Wednesday's stalker. Wednesday tells her to call the number they came from, and it goes straight to Galpin's voicemail. The discovery makes Wednesday suspect that her killer is mocking her. Uneasy, she suggests to Enid that she stay in the room until the whole thing is figured out, but Enid insists she has to go to her driving class. Once Enid leaves, Wednesday tries to trigger a vision by touching Galpin's eyeball, but it doesn't work, so she asks Thing to look through Goody's book for any way to get her powers back. Meanwhile, pranks are spreading all over the school. Wednesday takes the chance to ask Principal Dort and Dr. Orloff if they know of any student or staff member who can control birds. Dr. Orloff tells her they haven't had an avian enrolled in in about 10 years. Elsewhere, Bianca drops by to speak with Morticia about the school's fundraising. She hints that the principal's hoping for a generous donation from Morticia's mother. With a mysterious smile, Morticia tells her the last poor soul who dared ask her mother for a donation died of fright. Finally, Pugsley and Eugene head back to the cabin where they've been hiding Slurp. The living corpse Pugsley now calls his pet. Pugsley leaves him some food and the two boys head out, but as soon as they're gone, Slurp starts struggling trying to break free from his chains. Meanwhile, Wednesday, desperate for answers, decides to visit Tyler at Willow Hill. While she's away, Morticia enters her room and demands that Thing hand over Goody's book. Wednesday, meanwhile, pretends to be Enid in driving class and takes off with the instructor's car, heading straight for Willow Hill. When she arrives, she tells the guard she wants to see Tyler, but he mistakes her for some weird, obsessed fan. Wednesday, not messing around, tells him to let his bosses know that Wednesday Addams is here. The facility's psychiatrist, Dr. Fairburn, explains that Tyler's refusing to cooperate, but she's hoping Wednesday can get through to him. So Wednesday steps into the high-security cell where Tyler's being held. He mocks her right away, saying she fell for the monster living inside him. Wednesday tells him his father was killed last night in a gruesome way, and that another victim died just the same. Carl Bradbury, her father's old partner. 2 murders in 2 days. Tyler says it'll be way more fun watching her lose herself in the dark than helping her, and adds that she should say hi to Enid for him, right before warning her he's gonna take her out next time he sees her. Wednesday, cold as ice, fires back. Thornhill chose him as her killer puppet not because she saw some dormant hide in him, but because she saw what he really is. A nobody, a weak-minded bully with nothing to offer the world except mediocre barista skills. She tells him that her best revenge will be knowing he's rotting in that cell, eaten alive by his own insignificance. Then she walks away, leaving Tyler visibly shaken. Back at Nevermore, Eugene bursts into class to warn Pugsley that Slurp has escaped. Meanwhile, Enid brings Bruno, her new romantic interest, up to her room, where she finds a gift addressed to Thing. When she opens it, it's a mugshot of Thing from when he got arrested in Illinois, along with a note signed by his partner in crime, Lucas, sending it over for his birthday. That's when Enid realizes the entire Addams family forgot Thing's birthday. She invites him to celebrate, but before they can head out, something happens to Bruno. At the same time, Thing's little house locks shut automatically, trapping him inside. While all that's going on, Principal Dort orders Bianca to use her siren powers to persuade Morticia, but Bianca turns them on him instead, making him swear he'll never try to force her again. To her surprise, her powers don't work. Turns out Dort's carrying a charm he picked up at an antique shop, a small trinket made of Corinthian coral shards, making him immune to her siren song. Wednesday gets back to her room, frees Thing, and finds Enid's purse, with her phone ringing inside it. When she picks up the call, a distorted voice tells her she's got 30 minutes to find Enid, and she can't bring anyone else into it. Right after, a postcard with a heart slides under the door with a message that reads, "I will strike my hearth." Meanwhile, Enid wakes up chained next to Bruno, way up in the old clock tower of Yago Tower, a place that's been sealed off for years. A whole bunch of knives hang above him. At first, Enid thinks it's a prank from Ajax, but that changes real quick when one of the knives drops and nearly hits him. Wednesday studies the postcard and figures out that the heart means an organ, and the message is made up of musical notes. When she plays those notes on an organ, a hidden passage opens. As she moves through the tunnel, a masked figure follows her in silence. A moment later, only the mask remains, with a message carved into it. Time is ticking. At last, Wednesday finds Enid. The knives start lowering slowly. Wednesday spots a typewriter with a riddle on it. What is it you don't see? Answer to free your friends. Looking at a shelf of books, she notices one's missing, The Invisible Man. She types the title, and the knives stop just in time. Then the one behind it all shows up, wishing her a happy prank day. She introduces herself as Agnes, a 13-year-old invisible student and Wednesday's self-proclaimed #1 fan. Wednesday asks if she seriously expects her to believe she pulled all this off alone. Agnes admits she got a little help from some Da Vinci's and says she just wanted to get her attention. Wednesday presses her, asking about the crimes, Galpin's death and the eyeball left in her room. Agnes swears it wasn't her, says she just wanted to be friends. When Wednesday asks who did it then, Agnes says she wants to help her find out and hands over Galpin's phone, which she got by blackmailing some folks. Wednesday, Enid and Bruno walk away, leaving the unhinged fangirl behind. Meanwhile, Bianca uses her siren song on Morticia to convince her to invite her mother to the charity gala. Later, Wednesday apologizes to Thing for forgetting his birthday and gives him an old wrench as a gift. She also finds out Morticia took Goody's spellbook. Right then, the same crow from before shows up, the one with the single red eye, then flies off fast, making her even more uneasy. At the same time, Slurp's wandering the woods. The driving instructor accidentally hits him with his car, but Slurp vanishes after the impact, only to reappear seconds later and devour the instructor. While Homer and Morticia try to compensate Thing for having forgotten his birthday, Homer asks his wife how the organization of the gala is going. Morticia admits that she had a sudden impulse to invite her mother, highlighting that being the richest alumna of Nevermore Academy, that's probably why Director Dort tried to recruit her. Homer tries to calm her, downplaying the matter and distracting her with music and a peculiar dance. While the couple dances, Wednesday sneaks in through a window and heads to her mother's room, where she tries to open a trunk with the intention of obtaining Goody's book. However, Morticia surprises her, warning her that she won't make access to the book easy. Wednesday explains that she has had a new vision involving the possible death of Enid and needs to recover her psychic abilities, but Morticia refuses, arguing that her daughter hasn't yet mastered her gift and comparing her to her Aunt Ophelia, whose impatience drove her to madness. Despite their differences, Morticia promises not to fail her like her own mother failed before. Frustrated by the refusal, Wednesday leaves the room. Reflecting in her room next to Thing, Wednesday understands that if she can't recover her abilities, she will have to solve the Galpin case the old-fashioned way. She manages to get Enid out of the room and confesses to Thing that she can't tell her roommate about the death. Right then, Agnes appears in front of her, mad interested in Wednesday's story, but Wednesday confronts her and orders her to disappear and not come back, warning her that if she does, she'll make sure to arrange her funeral. Meanwhile, Pericles and Eugene head back to the shed and find Slorp in there, noticing his amazing capacity to regenerate. Eugene says he's worried about how dangerous it is and suggests letting an adult know. Pericles, looking a bit uneasy, tells him don't sweat it, he's already got a plan. At Galpin's funeral, Wednesday shows up and runs into Sheriff Ritchie and Dr. Fairburn. The sheriff warns her to quit getting mixed up with unhinged killers and mentions she's already aware of her visit to Taylor at the psych center. As the sheriff's leaving, Wednesday takes the chance to ask the doctor if Galpin had ever visited Taylor before. She answers only once, saying she'd never seen a patient that furious, and tells her they had to strap on a shock collar for 5 minutes to bring Taylor back to his human state. Merlina suggests that Galpin's killer could be an aviant, but the doctor assures her there ain't no inmates at the center with bird control abilities. Merlina thanks her for her honesty and steps away, not noticing the one-eyed crow watching her from a distance. At the Apple Hollow Inn, Bianca walks in and subdues the receptionist with her siren abilities, asking her to hand over the key to room 302. The receptionist obeys the orders. The siren adds that nobody's got to bother that guest and orders her to forget she was ever there. When she enters the room, she asks for her mother and scolds her for not having the curtains closed. She also asks if she hasn't gone out. Her mother, pretty worried, says she's been glued to the news. Bianca tells her that the only way she could have gotten her out of that cult was cuffed or in a bag, so she made sure that didn't happen. She adds that Gideon found her when she was vulnerable, so she ain't gonna blame him. Her mother says she should, cause he only married her so she'd help him recruit people and steal all her money. Bianca tells her that the hardest part's already over and that she just gotta follow the plan. She adds that they're gonna find Gideon for sure and that when they do, they'll be free. Merlina, frustrated by the obstacles in her investigation, interrogates Agnes on how she managed to unlock the late Sheriff Galpin's cell phone. Agnes reveals that with Josephine's help, they simulated the sheriff's appearance, letting them access the device. She also hands her a box with Galpin's personal items recovered before the police showed up. After checking out the contents, Merlina finds a recording of Carl mentioning a base, which leads her to deduce it ain't a police station but some other location. A photograph among the belongings points to a place called Pine Crest, and with a map and Thing's help, she discovers the site's near Jericho Camp, which forces her to join the field trip with the rest of the students. Upon arriving at the camp, Merlina notices that Pericles is carrying a coffin, so she asks him what it contains. He, trying to make an excuse, replies that he's lugging gasoline. Right then, the rest of the Addams family shows up. Pericles asks Largo, his chauffeur, to help him with the coffin. Meanwhile, Gomez tries to ease the tension between his daughter and Morticia. However, Merlina leaves without a single word. A little while later, Homer asks his wife if it wouldn't be easier to just hand the book over to Wednesday, but Morticia replies that even though her instinct is to please her, she needs her daughter to understand that she ain't willing to lose her. She adds that she also needs her absolute support. At the camp, Eugene discovers that Pericles had secretly brought Slorp, the zombie, inside a coffin. Pericles justifies his action, claiming they couldn't leave him alone and saying he set off fireworks as alarms in case he escaped. Eugene, upset, decides to sleep in another tent. The scene is interrupted when Homer innocently shows up with snacks, but both kids turn him down. Sensing the tension, Homer advises them that if they get into trouble, they shouldn't leave a trace. Meanwhile, Director Dort welcomes the students with extreme joy and excitement from everyone present, but he's interrupted by Ron Kruger, leader of the Phoenix Cadets, who claims the spot by showing a reservation contract. Dort also shows his own contract, so Wednesday steps forward in the crowd and proposes settling the conflict by fighting. The winner stays, the loser goes. Both teachers explain the rules of the game that'll decide everything. 2 teams, 1 for each side, with up to 10 members, where 5 will defend the position and the other 5 will attack. The goal's gonna be to recover the Zephyro and haul it up to the watchtower. First team to pull it off wins. Once the game kicks off, both sides manage to nab the Zephyro, sparking an all-out dash to plant it atop the tower. Just as one cadet's about to score the win, Merlina zips down a rope and boots it out of his hands, sticks the Zephyro in place, and seals the glory for her crew. Still, the Phoenix Cadets swear they'll take this camp back. That night, while everyone's belting tunes round the campfire, Ajax watches with a heavy heart as Enid beams beside Bruno while he strums the guitar. Merlina, meanwhile, slips off to Pine Minecraft and sneaks into the abandoned cabin. Inside, she finds Galpin family photos and newspaper clippings about psych center patients who died. Every lead points to a woman named Louise, and Merlina figures Enid might be next on her list. When she tries to fire up her powers, they just don't work. Unseen by her, the one-eyed crow's eyeballing her again from a nearby window. Back at the campfire, Director Dort strolls over and plops down on a log, asking Morticia if she managed to twist her mother's arm into restarting donations to the school. She hasn't given a dime in years. Morticia just shrugs and says she got no answer. She says her mother loves manipulating all kinds of situations and she ain't gonna fall for the same game. Meanwhile, Ajax cuts in on a conversation between Enid and Bruno in the forest. She admits that things have moved way too fast and that she should have made it clear her feelings changed. Ajax, noticeably down, can only stare at the ground before walking away after the girl he likes drops that on him. Later, Wednesday confronts her mother in her room, accusing her of crossing boundaries and of stealing Goody's book. She challenges her to a blindfolded fencing duel. If Wednesday wins, she gets the book back. If Morticia wins, she's gonna burn it. With both terms set, the duel begins, and Thing's gonna witness whatever goes down. At the same time, the Phoenix cadets try to take the camp back by sneaking in at night in camo gear. Ron Kruger slips into the tent where Slorp's holed up, but the zombie, already free, attacks him and gobbles his brain. That sets off the firework alarms, alerting Pericles and Eugene. They hurry to the tent and see Slorp's missing. Instead, they find the teacher's lifeless body, which freaks them out. Just then, Agnes turns up in front of them, leaving them straight up baffled. Pericles asks her what she's doing there, and she replies that she's taking care of Wednesday's secondary problems. The three of them head into the woods looking for the zombie. Slorp, drawn by the music, makes his way to one of the camp's rustic bathrooms where Homer is taking a shower. The zombie grabs an axe and starts busting the wall right behind Wednesday's dad, but just then Pericles shows up and shocks the zombie with electricity, knocking him flat. The commotion alerts everyone at camp, just as Slorp picks himself up and bolts back into the woods, running smack into Wednesday and her mother. At that moment, Morticia manages to smash the crystal heart embedded in Wednesday's chest, winning the duel. But right after Slorp appears behind Morticia, Wednesday reacts in a flash, hurling her sword and driving it clean through the zombie's head, saving her mom. The police arrive moments later and haul off Mr. Kruger's body along with Slorp. Wednesday, deep in thought, accepts her defeat and the tough reality of carrying on her investigation without her powers, wondering who this Louise really is. At the psych center, Dr. Fairburn is told that a new patient transfer has arrived. The doc recommends keeping constant watch on the new inmate in the building, since she's offed at least 2 people and they ain't gonna take no chances. When they throw the cell window open, they welcome the woman, sitting there with her hands completely cuffed. Everything keeps rolling in the 4th chapter, titled If These Gloomy Walls Could Talk. In this episode, we see Laurel being brought in to meet the head of Willow Hills Psychiatric Hospital. While she's got the director's attention, she straight up admits she manipulated Tyler using stuff from his own book. The director, clearly spooked, demands to know exactly what she did to the kid so they can start working on his recovery. But Laurel don't back down. She says she's heard rumors floating around about the place, claiming that the hospital's been running shady secret experiments on the patients. Since Laurel refuses to cooperate, the director warns her she's got no choice but to use a more invasive method if she wants to get Tyler out. Then she orders Laurel be transferred to the correctional facility. With nowhere else to turn, Laurel agrees to help, but only if she can see Tyler one more time. When she reaches his cell, she finds him chained up all over and tells him she misses him like a mother would. But Tyler, taking advantage of her closeness, shifts into his monstrous form and tries to choke her out. Still, Laurel manages to talk him down, convincing him to let her go by promising she's gonna get him out of there real soon. Meanwhile, out at the cemetery, Wednesday stumbles on a vase that's holding what looks like human remains. Right then, her grandma shows up answering her call. Wednesday asks why she's so interested in Patricia Redcar's ashes. She explains that Patricia was part of the outcast group who were cremated and buried there after being patients at the psych hospital. When she opens the urn and takes a whiff, Wednesday realizes it's filled with all kinds of plant matter. No human ashes in sight. At that exact moment, a crow that had been spying on him swoops in out of nowhere and snatches the obituaries Wednesday had on her. She tries to go after it, but only manages to watch the bird take off, flying away with the evidence, clearly working for someone else. So Wednesday turns to her grandma and asks her to buy the cemetery, saying she needs access to its records for the investigation. In exchange, she promises her mom will publicly spill all her childhood insecurities. Faced with that kind of deal, grandma agrees. Back at school, Wednesday spots Aquarius again. He's watching her nonstop now. Wanting to push forward with the case, she brushes off the warnings and barges right into Enid's room, interrupting her little moment with her boyfriend. She ignores all the complaints though, because she notices that Agnes, one of their classmates, had been secretly spying on them. Wednesday storms out and corners Agnes by the lockers, demanding to know who sent her and what she saw. Seizing the moment, Agnes slips Wednesday a letter, and in it, Wednesday finds out her novel's been straight up rejected by the publisher, who also suggests she get some psychological help. After this low blow, Wednesday heads up to the clock tower, where she meets with her uncle. She asks him to sneak into the psychiatric hospital for her. Lucas tells her the last time he was in that place was because his mother sent him to check on their aunt, and while he was there for 2 weeks, they put him through electroshock therapy. Right then, Lucas notices Wednesday's classmate nearby. She's showing up with a full set of hospital blueprints. He gives her a couple tips on how not to draw so much attention next time. Then Wednesday asks him to track down someone named Lois. She ain't totally sure if Lois is a patient or a doctor, but either way, she warns him to steer clear of Dr. Fairburn. Recognition could blow the whole thing. So Lucas kicks off the mission by checking into a local inn, paying cash, even though the bills are still stained with blood. But it don't take long till he starts causing a scene and the lady running the place calls the cops. At the station, Lucas tries to explain away the 33 passports he's carrying by saying he's just real into traveling. Still, the officers ain't convinced and keep grilling him about where he's really headed. But then someone recognizes Lucas from a past bank robbery he was mixed up in, and when he goes and licks a cactus like it's some kind of candy, the sheriff figures she's had enough, so she calls the psych hospital to come evaluate him. While they wait, Lucas starts singing show tunes at the top of his lungs, making the whole station even more uneasy. At the same time, one of her deputies reports that they found a strange woman trespassing at the inn. No ID, no records, nothing. Back at school, everyone involved in the whole zombie incident ends up under Professor Orloff's watch. Bianca gets her hands on some new intel and wants to keep digging into things, but her higher-ups shut her down cold. Meanwhile, Wednesday corners her mother, demanding to know what really happened to Aunt Ophelia. With no way out, Morticia finally spills the truth. Back in her second year, her sister was found screaming out in the courtyard after pushing her psychic powers too far. Morticia begged her mom to help, but all she did was send Ophelia off to the psych ward. That's when Grandma shows up with a deed to the cemetery and tells Wednesday the death certificates were all signed by Augustus Stonehurst himself. Once they're alone, Morticia turns on her mother, demanding answers. She can feel her mom's actions driving a wedge between her and Wednesday. But the old lady tells him to leave her daughter alone, says the process should either work or fall apart on its own. After that, the grandma agrees to make a donation to Morticia's organization, but only if Morticia gives Wednesday's book back. Morticia, though, turns her down cold and burns the book right in front of her eyes. Back at school, when Ajax finds out Bianca needs help, he decides to straight up petrify the teacher so she can keep working on her research without interruption. Just to be safe, he also rigs things so the rest of the students stay put in the classroom, focused on their tasks. Over at Fairburn Psychiatric Hospital, Lucas gets a real cold reception. They don't trust him and demand he cough up his real name. He dodges the question, saying that when he was a kid, his folks dumped him at a mental hospital because he kept seeing death in every picture he looked at. When they check out his brain waves, the doctors are shocked to find a bunch of foreign objects lodged in his skull. They waste no time. They admit him on the spot and kick off electroshock therapy. While he's locked up, Lucas starts asking around about Lois, trying to get any lead from the patients, but nobody gives him a straight answer. One time, he even chats up a waitress he thinks might be Lois, but turns out her name's actually Lois. She laughs it off, but the way she looks at him afterward gives him a weird feeling, like maybe she does know something. Still, since there's obvious chemistry between the two of them, they end up sneaking into a closet to have a little private moment together. Back at school, Wednesday's roommate tells her that Augustus used to be a doctor over at Willow Hill and also taught science at Nevermore until he had a full-on psychotic break. When Enid tries to get close to Wednesday again, Wednesday shuts her down hard. That sets Enid off and she calls her out, saying it feels like Wednesday's way more at ease with Agnes than with her, even after everything they've been through side by side. But right then, Wednesday notices something off, a whole army of crows staring them down from above. At some silent signal, the birds dive in and launch a full-blown attack till the professor steps in and fights back using fire. In the middle of the chaos, Wednesday locks eyes on the one pulling the strings and chases after him through the school, following him into some secret hallway. But she loses sight of the figure and instead comes face to face with Dr. Fairburn, who says she's there on Professor Capri's request. When Capri finally shows up, Wednesday can tell right away she's totally wiped out, like she's been running around for hours. Wednesday takes the moment to say she's decided to attend the gala, but only so she can keep digging into her investigation. Capri nods, but there's a flicker of concern in her eyes, like she knows more than she's letting on. Meanwhile, while the cops are looking into the unidentified woman, Bianca shows up at the scene and drops the bomb. It's her mother. With zero hesitation, she orders the officers to shut down the whole investigation and erase every last file connected to it. Elsewhere, Wednesday sends Thing out to do some digging on Professor Capri, which leads him all the way to Willow Hill. There, he bumps into Lucas and hands him a set of real specific instructions on how to track down Augustus. It ain't long before Lucas finds the old man sitting in what they call the bird cage. Turns out there's a parrot speaking on his behalf after a little jolt of electricity to get his attention, the bird lets slip the location of Lois, like it's some kind of message. Same time, Wednesday visits Professor Orloff to ask him straight up about Augustus. Orloff says his wife died before they ever got to Nevermore, but they had a daughter, a real sharp one, who built an aviary way up at the top of Yago Tower. Back at school, Bianca's crew uses the hidden tunnels underneath the place to hide her mom. They manage to slip right past the professor's watchful eye without making a sound. Over at the hospital, Laurel and Lucas cross paths, and the second their eyes meet, they recognize each other. Not long after, Laurel tells Fairburn that Lucas Adams is now a patient there, most likely working with Wednesday. In exchange for that info, she asks to be allowed to work alongside Tyler. After taking Augustus back to his room, Lucas tries sneaking into Lois's quarters, but he gets caught and ends up locked in the punishment ward, right next to a zombie. Even so, Wednesday sticks to the infiltration plan, using Professor Capri's music class as cover. She's got an inside contact, a cook working at the hospital. When Enid complains about being left out, Wednesday finally gives in and agrees to let her join the mission, assigning her the job of lookout. Later on, Wednesday hides inside Capri's car while Agnes sneaks into the hospital using her invisibility. Once inside, she sets off an explosion in the bathroom to create a diversion, buying time so Wednesday don't get caught during the checkpoint. Once she's inside the facility, Wednesday manages to slip past security thanks to the cook, who helps guide her all the way to Lucas's cell. She frees him, but neither of them notices they've left the door wide open, right as the zombie breaks out of its chains. The creature goes wild, attacking the guards watching over Laurel. That chaos gives Laurel the perfect chance to escape too. As she's making a run for it, she locks eyes with Wednesday, but neither one says a word. They both choose to go their own way, not getting involved in each other's business. Still, there's a silent understanding hanging in the air, like they both know this ain't the last time their paths will cross. When the Addams crew finally makes it to Lois's room, they realize it's not what it seems. It's a decoy. Turns out it's actually a hidden entrance to a top-secret operation called the Observation Line for Segregated Investigations. Lois ain't a person. It's a code name for a classified program. They discover a hidden lab beneath the hospital filled with test subjects, including familiar faces Patricia Redcar and Julian Mayojas. The place feels eerie and secretive, like it's been hidden away for something nobody's supposed to find. At the end of the corridor, they come across a pale, mysterious woman, someone with no records, no identity, not even a whisper in the system. Right then, they get confronted by the crow handler who drops a bombshell. She's actually Augustus's daughter. She spills the truth. Her real mission is to extract the unique abilities from gifted patients and hand them over to the normies, regular folks without any powers. She claims she's living proof the experiment works, saying her own father used her as a test subject, and thanks to some real shady procedures, she gained full-on control over the crows. With no other way out, Lucas unleashes a massive shockwave that knocks out the hospital's entire power grid, plunging the place into a full blackout. Alarms start blaring everywhere, and chaos erupts as guards scramble in the dark. In that confusion, everyone gets a chance to make a move. As a result, the test subjects break loose, and in the middle of all the chaos, they swarm the woman. While the place spirals out of control, Wednesday steps up and offers help to the unnamed inmate. At the same time, Laurel makes it to Tyler and manages to free him from his chains. But Tyler still holds a grudge for what went down. Cold as ice, he gives her 5 seconds to get gone before he chases her down to kill her. Laurel tries to run, but Tyler's too fast. He slashes her with his claws, taking her life in a brutal way. Meanwhile, Lucas says goodbye to the cook with a passionate kiss, thanking her for all the help she gave him. Elsewhere, Fairburn tries to protect Augustus in his office, but without her knowing, the zombie sneaks in and makes her its first victim. Then, spotting Augustus, it attacks him next, claiming another life. The sudden violence shakes the whole place, making it clear no one's truly safe anymore. In the hospital halls, Wednesday runs into Tyler again, who shoves her hard out of the building just as the cops show up. Together, they try to take down the creature, but it easily overpowers them and escapes, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. As the dust settles, both know this fight ain't over. There's more trouble coming, and they gotta be ready. The hospital stands in ruins, a grim reminder of what just went down.